Good morning, New Eden. Today is October 14th, 2023, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and with us today we have a very special guest. Sabre Jaguar is on here today. He flies around with the
Hi, Frozen.
Galente. Sorry, what was that?
It's Hi, Frozen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sabre, tell us, who do you fly for and what do you do in Eve these days?
Hi, Frozen. So I'm flying with Chicken Fried Steak, where I'm a director, and the Food Network. So we're a group. We're in faction warfare. We fly out of the Tanlan Pipe in the Citadel. So basically, we're pretty chill. So we're just like doing whatever we want right now. So holding down the pipe. Not very aggressive right now. Since the last time we pushed into Sujarento. But like, yeah, it's been pretty cool, and yeah, we're just like having fun.
Yeah, the that area of space is a lot of fun. We had a contract to go out and help with fighting in Sujarento not too long ago. That was a really successful and good contract that we had a lot of fun doing. Um, there's a lot of really good fights up in that area, so I like to frequent that a lot. We're called off to OICX right now, but yeah. So tell me, let's go ahead and take like a little bit of a way back machine here. Tell me um, what got you into Eve Online, and when was that?
What got me into EVE Online was actually COVID, because when the lockdown started, I've heard of EVE Online, right? But like I never really played it. But like the lockdown, like I was bored to my wits, like, and there wasn't just anything to do at home, right? Other than watch Netflix. So I got into EVE. So started out, met some guys, got into some mission running, and like that's how I actually started. But like it it mission running kind of got boring after like a while. Um, as you know, it's really repetitive.
Yeah, that's something that I think we all experience in Eve. Is either you go the mission running route or you go the mining route in
Mining.
the very beginning. You're like, okay, so let's learn the basics of Eve. But yeah, it is. I mean, both activities are an extremely repetitive. Um, did you quickly get up into like level fours, or did you not even get up to like the doing of level fours before it became too much of a grind?
I actually did level fours for a while. The people I met, right? So they specialize in mission running. So they either do abyssals or they're mission running. But at the time, the guides for abyssals for like new bros wasn't as good as it is now. Like you got abyssal tracker, you got like forum. Really, I mean, some people were saying it was much easier to run and it paid more back then too. But right now, I think there's just more resources for everyone. Um, so I got into mission running, level 4 missions, and I was like, well, this is grindy. So let's try something else, right? So what I did was I did some research and decided, okay, these are the two ships I want to fly. I made an alpha. Sabre Jaguar was actually not my main, and made an alpha. Trained them to those skills. Got into Tech 2 guns for the frigates. I was like, let's see how it goes. Day one, I enlisted in the militia. Marcus Binchet of Federal Vanguards was spamming militia chat. Oh, we're gonna run a fleet at this time. I was like, well, how convenient. So join the fleet. Oh, this is pretty fun. I could not understand the plexing part until like a day after, but
Yeah, it takes a
we got some frags.
little bit of time to figure out the flexing concept of what you're doing, but um, it's
Yeah,
very new
I got
bro
my first
friendly though,
kill.
which is kind of nice. Oh, and you got your first kill in that. So your first day in faction warfare, you got your first kill, huh?
Yeah, an AFK. So Hookville tethered on the station. We bumped him off and killed him.
You gotta love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, he was
That's
mad
Eve.
though. He was mad. He chased us like 3 systems out or something, and like killed everybody. I mean, they killed me. The other guys just warped off because It's like, oh, we're not taking that fight. I didn't know I can't even remember what ship it was, but like he kicked our ass. So it was clearly something that 41 frigates could take. But yeah, that's how I got started. It was but like I think the time, I think this was 2020. Galmil had just dominated the war zone, so it was kind of slow. And I actually got my first campaign in the Amar Minmatar war zone because Federal Vanguard deployed there, and I was plexing like the areas around Asset. And so a large part of my militia days, despite being Galmil, was actually in the Minmil war zone.
Oh yeah,
Um,
back when our two sides were technically allied with each other, but you
yeah,
could also
yeah,
gank the living shit out of people if you were the Mimitar over in the Galente space because it didn't give you any negative standings, uh,
correct.
only to the NPC corporation, which doesn't matter whatsoever.
Yeah, so like and then when the Minmil dominated that portion of the war zone, as you know, the war zones kind of just flip, right? And so a friend of mine actually said, "Let's go to nullsec. I'm putting up a new corp. Got approval, and so like, yeah, like there's nothing to do here because like the we they all except for asset, the Minmil took the surrounding systems, so there's nothing to do. And at the time, Federal Vanguard has pretty much gone inactive. I think Marcus got a new job. So on my way out, I was like, well, maybe let's just burn these ships down. And I see a ping. And I was like, oh, we're bashing this iHub. And so I go there. I met Kuruk, back when he's just become CEO of Aderon Robotics.
Okay, yep.
And so I was like, all right, let's hang out with these guys for a while till I leave for Null, because like I eventually decided to join Ader at the time, and then I didn't take Saber to Null. But I did take the other alts to Null, and so I joined Ader. I stayed in Ader for a while. We founded FPD after, and so early this year I founded Chicken Fried Steak with Sully, and then yeah, that's how it's kind of started for me, and up till today. So it's quite fun in faction warfare, especially like when I started. Like it was a lot of smaller groups because like it was pretty dead back then. When I at least 2020ish, a lot of the
Yeah,
Galmil groups had disbanded.
they haven't released the update yet. There's
Yep.
was a lot of, I remember it being pretty disparaging during that time because I was coming back to doing, like, trying to build up a corporation and everything, and joined up with faction warfare. And I remember we went and instead for a little while, I think it's right around that time would be when we were like, yeah, we jumped out of faction warfare because we could join up with Nisua cartel, and we were doing some notorious moon mining and stuff like that, and just like having fun building stations and stuff. And because the war zone was really dead back then. It was, and the concept of it, with it being a tier based, if you're winning, you get more LP, but that also not necessarily meaning you get more money. It's all about gaming the market. So it was, bots felt like they controlled the war zone because what they and people that were market tiering, um, doing LP stuff, because what they wanted to do was have Galmil be at tier 4 or tier 5 for 5 or 6 months or something like that. You farm all the LP there, you hold on to it, because as you're doing this farming, the LP to ISK ratio is dropping, and then you go over to the Caldari, boost them up to tier 4, tier 5, and allow for Galente to drop back down to tier 1. So Galente LP becomes valuable. You sell Galente LP while you're farming Caldari LP, and then you just keep on doing that. So the war zone would just flip from one side to the other, and it really did feel, at least personally for me, that it was like and I mean I don't have like great evidence to support this, but it felt like this is what was controlling the war zone and altogether, and it had nothing to do with the PvP that was going on.
It
Although
actually was. It's like literally like I remember Kurok literally telling me we cannot fight the market.
yes, yeah, the market forces were very. I mean, it's Eve Online, it's pure capitalism, so um, it's a very strong, um, game the market type of game, and yeah, and how easy it was to flip a system back in the day was a little bit. It was too easy, and to defend a system was also too easy. Um, Now with the new changes and everything, that kind of changed stuff up. But I do remember coming back into faction warfare, and I had this inkling that there was going to be changes that were going to be coming up, and I felt it like that. This is the time for faction warfare, and everybody thought I was crazy. Like they were like, do you even FW, dude? Like, and I've been in FW since the beginning, and I'm like, they have iterated on this. Slowly, there has been multiple changes over since the very beginning of this. There have been a lot of changes. FW back in the day, even before the big changes that just happened, had massive amount of changes that had happened to how LP rewards were, what the well, some of that hasn't changed, but it was like what the tier system meant, and how plexes actually, like, because originally plexes were filled with a ton of rats, and you didn't have to kill them all in order to hold the plex. You just needed to uh, be within the button range and stuff. Uh, so you had joined back up with FW after going out to null. Was that before or after the changes? That was still before the changes, right?
Oh yeah, because like changes were only last year, right? So in hindsight, I was actually getting, I wouldn't say fair fights, but more even fights back then. Because like we would take three guys on three guys, like guys like from Armored Business would have some. I think Armored Business or those guys like, or like Norman Seversky would run fleets to fight in Sudorento when they were campaigning for it. So they were actually more even fights than what you see right now. Because right now, like when we were fighting in Suge, there'd be like, there was a point, I can't forget this. I think it was 27 guys on the Kaldari side, and we had like 6 or 7 dudes. And so I was like, yeah, no one's gonna take this fight because those are high volley comp, right? I'll slide in, one guy's dead immediately. So and so like we're not taking that fight. So a lot of it is like right now I think there's a very big imbalance with the. I mean, Galmil's always I think had like a very much lower number of people because of the LP store. Our LP store kind of sucks, right? Like I
I don't
hear
know, every
complaints from Amar all the time, and I was like, you just haven't seen the Galente one if you're complaining.
yeah,
All we
it's
have to sell is the ENI.
yeah, ENI is pretty solid. VNI is okay. Um, and the Moros Navy issue is kind of interesting, but when it comes to like actually selling it at this point, the BPC is not really worth that much. Um, yeah, overall, there's some things that are sort of that are interesting, but the Kaldari ships are much more appraised as being a much better uh, selling point for them. And
It's not
but
just the ships, I think. It's the whole package. They've got missiles used by
mhm,
everybody and used by the guys that run Abyssals. A lot of their stuff is using Kaldari stuff. So the market is much huge, much, I would say it's massive for them. They have hybrid ammo as well.
that's
So that
true.
would be nice to take out from their side, right? Because Minmatar
Or
also
give
use
us
missile ships.
missiles.
Yeah, and they don't get missiles. It's only Kaldari. So that's kind of unfair. Yeah, so they're the only guys with a two weapon systems in their LP store, which kind of sucks. Or at least give us something in the LP store for like capital stuff, or I don't know.
Well, they were talking
Um,
about FanFest that this might also be like really changing up where you can maybe do a direct ISK to or LP to ISK trade in. That's a simple process for you. And there are since they put in LP trading now that you can well donating you can donate a LP to a corporation now or something like that. I haven't dealt with it, but I've been seeing a lot of LP traders now that are springing up. And but you are right. LP for the Caldari way fucking better ISK to LP churn in when you're talking to these groups than it is to do it for the Galente or Mimitar or Mar.
it's just the volume is so much higher because even if the LP to ISK ratio, because the LP to get is so easy with the five plexus, and I was literally listening to Kaldari FC told me about this. I was like, people are AWOXing. Frat in particular is AWOXing people for the LP, for Kaldari side, right?
Yep.
But like I'm saying, like, well, they're complaining that they can't fight back initially because of the standings issues. So I don't know, like, but like, I think the biggest problem right now for FAC War is the amount of farmers, the content, because there's a lot of content. Sorry, I've got a cold,
No problem.
but there's just too many farmers farming the LP, and ironically, like a lot of the newer bros, right? Like me when I was new, like do some mission running, go to null, there's money there. All the null guys are here farming the LP. Shows you where the real money is, but like I think that's when all the plexes are only filled for farmers, did we really make a change from the old system? We just moved them from mission running to
Well,
plex farming.
we moved them from mission running to plex farming, but we also moved them from any system in the galaxy, well, any system in the war zone to really do this in, and moved it over to be well any offensive to the front line system. So it's easier to catch farmers. It's easier to stop farmers from farming now, where you couldn't stop a farmer from farming missions. Like that was like they will just grab three Drakdaws or whatever, and just or stealth bombers, and get to their destination safely, run the mission safely. Like you couldn't in if you go into missions, you will end up getting shot by the rats as well as having to deal with trying to do some PvP. Um, Back in the day, I think it really sucked. I think that farmers really did control the war zone, and now you don't have um, the war zone anymore controlled by farming. Farming is a huge part of it still, and I think it still happens on both sides. But I would argue that it's the amount of control that the farmers have and the amount of farmers in general has drastically gone down. Actually,
Um, I don't know. It's like so every morning when I log in Tanlan Onato, 10 guys in one plex. I'm like, okay, like it's kind of absurd at some point because like I mean that's okay if you're gonna punch in like a battleship into a open or a large, right? 10 guys in a small, how are you gonna fight that unless you wake everybody up and get 10 guys in? And when you wake everybody up, these guys will not fight, they'll run. So your 10 guys next time are not waking up for you. I think that's the biggest problem. I personally hate the fiveplex. It's terrible. It had a very good idea behind it. Like people stop like Lude stop fighting over a plex. At least for Galente, I've never seen people aggressively fight as much as like maybe other guys do because um I think we're a smaller community to begin with. But like the I think it's just enticing the farming, and I think they've reduced it if you recall the five plexes. But just to give you an idea, I went like the last time there was a 3 day plex sale. I logged in my alt. I made like four um alts. Used the 3 day sale to omega them. and sent one alt with a catalyst to like farm LP in the other war zone. I made 11 million in 3 days.
Yeah, that's I mean, equivalent
Like
to at least like 8 or 9, possibly 11 billion ISK if depending on how you're trading that
yeah,
out.
so like that's where I realized like this is why like this is so easy, right? Like in less than 3 days, you definitely over a course of a week, and I've seen people aggressively farm make more than that plex your accounts, right? I think it's too generous, and I think it devalues a lot of the work, like a lot of the militia make. Because if you look at a lot of the guys in single account, they don't plex their they some of them sub, some of them plex, but like you're grinding for system control, and you're not really making all that much money, especially if you're defensive plexing. So I think that's like I don't generally make most of my money plexing. I use something else. But like a lot of the guys that only do um fac war, it kinda sucks for them where you'll see all the null blobs basically devalue the LP. Even kill demand, right? Like if you were trying to sell, like you said, the Moros Navy, there's a dude that just like farmed one by using 12 Tristans in a battlefield, and it takes you like a week to grind that. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, no, there is. I mean, so there. I mean, it's a weird balancing act that you have to be careful with because you want to have it accessible to newbies. You want to have it and be a good profit center for new characters. I mean, I think that it's great that there's the ability to make a pretty decent load of money day one when you log into this game. Now you need to have the expertise or understanding or somebody helping you to like bring you in and help you understand how to make money off of the LP. But the getting of LP being really easy and being a group activity also that can be done, I think lends to a lot to the new player experience in faction warfare. Um, but I do agree with you that there is problems of people that are just in it for the money. Um, the thing is though is that I've also would kind of debate that just because they're in it for the money, it's harder to catch them because they're not actually going to fight you, and you have to push them out of plexus and stuff. The system of the frontline um, battle zones that you have makes it so you're able to fuck with farmers inside of this system. Now, what it does fuck with is small gang activity. So like 3-man, 4-man groups are um, in a much rougher zone for finding a fight, but also in a much better zone for making money. But if you're not in it for the money and you're in it for the fighting, um, some of this has definitely hurt the smaller game and stuff. If you're in it for the fighting and you can gather up 30 to 40 people, like we see a lot that happens over in the Sedition war zone, over by OICX and stuff, and that Sedition will just every Friday night they get like 40 to 50 people together, and they go out, they do a roam, they find almost a fight almost immediately. The Keldari know that fleet's going up, so they do the same in kind. Um, I think there's the bigger fights are benefiting from some of this. The bigger groups are benefiting from this, and small gang has been hurt to like to a certain degree. Like 3-man gangs are not really super effective anymore, but a 10-man gang is kind of effective, and can kind of really push around stuff inside of the war zone. Um, because I think most fleets are either into that large blob, they know that there's another blob going on and they're just going to clash into each other. When I say blob, I'm saying like 50 people on both sides, which is not that many fucking people anymore. Not when you have 5,000 man battles that are happening on 0.0. We don't experience tie dye. We don't experience a lot of the shit that happens with super blobs, and we can have a lot of really good stuff that can still happen. And I think that came out of the update. But I do think that you are right when it comes to like the smaller solo and 3-man like PvP has been hurt a little bit. You can still get solo like with a frigate, but cruiser it starts getting a little bit harder to find some solo fights, and it's harder to move around the war zone like that. But Zed says here, is it even possible in Eve to help new players without benefiting the null blocks even more? Given that Asmi, uh, uh, given its laissez-faire underpinnings. Um, I think within,
Yeah,
yeah, if you want to answer this, Saber, go ahead.
I mean, like, this is my take, right? I don't go to null to rat, right? So right now, I think that definitely bigger groups, but not necessarily null groups will be benefited. So if you're a new bro, you can go wormhole. I mean, even low class wormhole. Um, you can do abyssals. Abyssals don't benefit null. Um, you can do some fact war. I mean, like, definitely you're not necessarily benefiting null, and it's not really against an issue of making null weaker or not benefiting them. But you don't have to go to null to make money. Right now, those home front sites are pumping out so much money. Uh, with very low SP requirements, all you need to do is find friends, right? You can actually join a fact war corp and like gang up, right? Like, dude, like, because like for a lot of the people that haven't done fact war, if you're doing LP conversions, you need ISK to convert the either to the blueprints or the everything, right? Like, except or you buy the data cores. So you need some form of this. Like, Homefronts will help you do that. Abyssals will help you do that. Eve Uni has a very nice guide on how to go alpha to omega using your Tristan, starting with a Tristan. But like, I think there is a way. I think like I've been to Null as well. Uh, I don't. I have had the most fun in Fact War. I'll tell you that. I've joined a small wormhole corp before, and wormholes are nice, right? You get the big brawls, like heavy armor, very nice. But like most days, it's quiet. Go crap. There's a reason scan or like content finders that do scanning, they're paid well. It's because it kind of gets boring at times. In low sec though, you get like, I mean, people in low sec, so there's a gate camp there. Let's jump in. Why not? Like, so things like that happen in low sec. So I think like FacWar is a good starting point. There's, I think, very few that would pay as well as FacWar as a new bro, and I wish I had known when I started, right? But nobody would kind of encourage it at the time because people are generally risk averse. First
Yes.
day I did like in the Amar War Zone, like when I like lost 5 ships, and like every loss, people would ask me like, "What did you learn?" And they tell you like, I told them like, "So this was happened, so I know not to do this." Okay, keep it up. But like I think like from like a lot of the people like they're worried about the risk making, and I'm like, you shouldn't um because if you only plan is to make ISK to sub the account, kind of makes it, and people say this, it makes it a grind, right?
Yeah, the
So
ISK
like,
for ISK's sake is not a good goal in Eve. You got to have a real goal in Eve, and something that is not just. There's no way to finish your goal of ISK for ISK. If your goal
yeah,
with your ISK is to get more ISK, then you're never going to achieve your goal of getting enough ISK because there's nothing you're doing anything with your ISK for. You've got to have a reason that you want to have ISK. I also think that this comes down to some of the weird terminology with being able to try and communicate as humans. The idea of what do you mean by benefit the null blocks? and what is the base concept behind that. And I think there's some problems with or not problems, but I think there are some things that faction, like almost all aspects of Eve, have the ability to benefit uh, zero point 0.0, because even if you're doing abyssals, they're buying abyssal mods and using them for abyssals. Like you will use the abyssal stuff. You're doing faction warfare, they'll buy faction ships and use those types of things. So it can benefit. Sometimes it absolutely does benefit. Sometimes it just can, and it actually isn't because they're not buying that stuff. Um, and there are other things of like, okay, so you've got there's a number of open communities. Gamer Girl said there's a number of open communities in Eve that have nothing to do with Null and all sorts of fleet types. And depending on what's going on with that, like even PvE or PvP type stuff, if you're sending out a fleet to zero point 0.0, can benefit zero point 0, because they, even them losing it brings content to zero point 0. If you have the um, incursion running, there's materials and items and stuff that come from that can be used in zero point 0. So can can a new bro do anything to not benefit zero point 0 is kind of a question that is not really fair to a certain degree. Now, if you're talking about true benefit and stuff like that, like that you have to be part of a zero point 0, or that's where you got to make that's not where to make ISK anymore. Like I think that there should be better ways actually for zero point 0 to make their own ISK to a certain degree that's not as stupid grindy. um, but there's not a lot of easy ISK for a new bro in zero point 0. If you're talking like the first like month of play, you can make way more money in faction warfare than you can by doing, especially if you're not injecting and stuff and you're an alpha account and stuff like that. You can make an ass load of money in faction warfare, comparatively to doing the small sites and stuff in zero point 0 that you can't, because you can't do the bigger sites. You can't fly the bigger ships. If you can't fly anything but an Atron, you can't be making hand over fist money. Now when you have a super in zero point 0, well, yeah, you don't use that stuff anymore for money making. But in any case, like there's some activities out in zero point 0 that if you've got good skills and you've been playing the game and solid understanding of the game, you can make some solid money out there. But a lot of people just make their money in abyssals or make their money in faction warfare now, because you can enlist. You can make money doing the home front sites is another really big thing that Dinky A says. Home front sites have really good rewards, and you and 3 friends can make a lot of ISK. But yeah, it's that's where a lot of money is being made, and new bros have access to a lot easier for them to access, like faction warfare, and I believe home front sites to a certain degree. Maybe not a month into the game, but like pretty soon.
No, you can inject that. You can inject
Well, you
that
can
like from
inject, but
the
that's
no, not not not
that's
not.
different. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, like the 1 million the 1 million SP. That's enough.
Is that enough to do?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
So I haven't done any. I'm kicked out of high sec. They told me I've murdered way too many people, and I pay them off every once in a while. But normally I just immediately going back to them being like, no, like you murdered more people, dude. Get out.
Huffing gas, man.
New bros can do home front sites day one. So those home front sites, I mean, if you're talking about like, oh, they get some items or something like that, like maybe that does benefit zero point 0, but no, home front sites are not benefiting zero point 0 groups for real. Faction warfare not really benefiting faction warfare or zero point 0 groups. Like their money doesn't, like the group, the zero point 0 alliance doesn't rely on faction warfare to make their alliance level income, and then in fact is not really a good place for them to make alliance level income. Well, the taxes, we just got tax ability to tax people's LP payout that they get for running sites, so that can start doing a little bit more top level income generation for these groups, but that's not what they rely on. And I mean, you're not seeing 300, people from zero point zero, even from almost all the groups together, are not like just flooding in and causing, all at once. They're just constantly collect. I mean, the Galente, I haven't looked recently, but normally we don't even hit like 150, 200 people that are active in with a character logged in to a character, to a faction warfare character,
I mean,
for
it
the
could be
Galente.
just not us, right?
That
Because
could,
like
I think the
Keldari,
Keldari do get like three, four
yeah.
hundred or something like that, but
No, but like so when we moved to Tantalon, every morning I would see in Sudorento a massive fleet of goons. I think that's 2 or 3 guys multi-boxing. Late in my afternoon, I would see a massive number of frat. So they're definitely farming, as I think Amar and Kaldari are the
but
LP they're
what are you
farming.
saying by massive? Because massive could be, so you're saying
20
you're seeing
guys,
500 people, like, because that's
like
what goons
like
can organize easily. If they want to do something, they can drop 500 people onto something.
well, they
But
tried to drop
but
snuff though, like did not work well.
yeah, well, there's differences of like what you can actually do with the 500 and whether it's effective or not. But they can organize 500. But so you're saying
Yeah,
around 30, which
yeah.
that's a large number, but that's not insane for faction warfare to see 30-man groups doing some stuff. Like Sedition can easily organize 30 people, um, and they're a permanently zero or faction warfare. So there's definitely, you're not seeing the full weight of zero point zero coming into faction warfare because it's not benefiting zero point zero organizations, is what I would say. If there was really a true benefit for goons to be in faction warfare and like dedicating, with them actually pulling out an assload of money out of it, they would do it, and they would do it in swarm, with true, massive number advantage push that they could do if they wanted to. But it just doesn't become profitable at that level. Like it doesn't. If you pump 500 people into faction warfare, it doesn't really affect the ability to make a whole bunch of money as it is just to have like, whoever wants to go there and do it, and organizing 30 fleets that are actually pretty small for goons. And I don't see a lot of that, to be honest. But I
I
haven't
think
been
they're
hanging out.
mostly in the sewage pipe because it's one jump from Jita. You
Yes.
don't
Yep.
even need JDC5 for that. So I talked to one of them and he said like, how come you guys are hanging out here? And it's like, oh, it's one jump from Jita. Yeah. So like yeah, that I think that kind of hurts us though as well. Like the market being in Jita and Dodixie being a pretty bad market.
That hurts
Um,
us, but we have Hate HQ, which is the best low sec market in the area, period, hands down.
yeah.
There's no other place like Hate HQ. And the Keldari can't. I don't think they can
They
dock
can't
there.
dock. Right now they can't, but I just like to point this out that if you remember, Shawnee did put out a sales report on who was buying what from ADHQ back when Caldari could dock, and he did point out that the number one buyers of inertial stabilizers were Caldari State. So
That's funny. Uh,
we
so
have actual numbers.
so Zed says, "Thanks for this talk. I'm seeing things differently now." That's cool. Eve is a super big game, and it's very easy to become narrow sighted on how you think the game is, and what things mean, and how zero, like, it's easy to think that the only thing that matters is zero point zero, and that's the only place that, because that's what gets talked about a lot. I mean, this is and so I'm the only faction warfare podcast that I know of that dedicates most of our content to faction warfare and have like a pure faction warfare theme that we're kind of going with. We're also a bunch of pirates, but there's not a lot of focus on that area. There is some small gang, some high sec politics and stuff like that that get talked about to a certain degree, but most of the big shows, most of the big names are your people that are out in 0.0 owning and holding and fighting over giant swaths of space. Um, so, but there is so much more to this game than that, and all the politics or all the money making that happens out there. It's just another version, and because I've been around all over. I've been playing this game since 2000. Really, 2006 is when I made Frozen Fallout and really got into this game. I dabbled with it a little bit before that, but really since then I've been to 0.0. I did a little bit of like I should have been in the wormhole because I was part of a wormhole corp, but I ended up not being wanting to really do wormhole stuff, and but being part of big organizations like Interstellar Conglomerate. I've been part of Mostly Harmless. I've been part of Goons. I've been a part of Against All Authorities. I've jumped around to different aspects of the game, and when Faction Warfare came out, I knew that that was like a time to like jump in and check out this low sec PvP craziness that can kind of happen. That's not necessarily pirating, but goes along with it. And I really felt like that was one of the huge things that like I will never go truly away from faction warfare, especially with enlistment and stuff. Now, if I ever find myself 10 years down the road, and it's the faction warfare still exists, Eve still exists, and for some reason I'm not running the Federation Frontline Report, you'll probably see me being enlisted a lot if I'm in part of some 0.0, because this is where the fun is at, and this is where like I have always great members. If you want to build up a corporation, don't try and go out to 0.0 right away. You can get a group of 5 to 10 newbies together, form your own corporation, join faction warfare, and grow and gain a lot of money and a lot of experience growing your corporation. Because that's when I wanted to jump into faction warfare. I started up my own corporation and pulled my friends in and just started building things up. And X Meta, even after I left, went on to do great fucking things that they ended up owning territory of their own with Aderon and Fed Up. This was after I was moved on to partying with the goons because they threw parties at my city. Speaking of which, have you ever been to any real life meetups?
No, because I live in the Philippines, so that's kind of rough. Um, but like, and also like, real life kind of prevents me from spending too much time on meetups, because like we generally don't have them here. So if I were like to go to Fan Fest, it's kind of hard for me because of the schedule, work wise, and also like I have small kids, so you gotta like manage everything. So maybe someday when it's like more relaxed. But right now it's just like also with the travel being, I think for me a little harder, because of the visa requirements. So that kind of makes life a bit more difficult than for most people.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. It's just one of the because I just got back from FanFest, and I've been to a bunch of like goon meetups and other kind of player-made meetups in the Midwest here. I haven't made myself out to Eve Vegas, but now that I know it's only like $100 for me to fly out to Vegas, I'm definitely going if there is another Eve Vegas. So I'm waiting for that announcement to happen. Also, Night Flyer, how's it going, man? Our co-host normally comes on for our normal. Um, Showing time, but we're at a very special time, so I didn't want to inconvenience a lot of people. So, um, and this has been awesome. So I think there's some changes that are going to be coming to what you're going to be doing in Eve. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so like with the pirate faction, I'm actually gonna join the pirate faction to see what I think it's gonna be very interesting for a lot of the militias. I think not just Galente, a lot of them are gonna join members are gonna join the pirate faction. So it's kind of gonna be interesting when you're shooting old friends and maybe partnering with old enemies, right? So that's
Yeah,
gonna definitely gonna be interesting.
yeah. This is a crazy time that we're gonna see what this. I'm really excited for this. I had almost been like I'm just gonna pull Frozen Fallout into the Angels, and you're joining the Angels cartel, aren't you?
Yes. It's it's I was actually joining Goristas. Then someone said like, "Dude, the Angels are fighting Caldari and Galente." I was like, "I'm gonna shoot a lot of people I know, so let's see." I
I
mean, it's
mean,
inevitable, right? But like, I'd rather minimize it.
right. So the Guristas are going after the Galente Caldari space, and the Angels are going after Mimitar Amar space.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so this is like a new update that's going to be coming out. It's adding like the three body problem into this chaos that is faction warfare. Sometimes we're going to team up with the pirates. Sometimes we're going to need to shoot the pirates. Um, and it will be really interesting. I also plan to be going over to with an alt at the very least. I'm going to try and see if I can do a new bro alt um, and start with that as my Angel Cartel character and try and probably do like a series where we're going to try and review what it would be like to, with a character because I'm not going to do like any injections or anything. So I'm just whatever free things that come to like a subbed character is where I'll probably have that be okay. This is my new bro character for pirate, and can you do pirate faction warfare as a new bro, or is it something that is restricted and there's no way to make any real money or influence or join up with people if you aren't a seasoned character. And so we'll see how that kind of goes. I'm super excited though. I think that this Deathless stuff is awesome. Have you been to Zarzak?
I actually have not. Because I've been like, uh, because I, because I'm planning to go faction warfare, pirate faction. I'm trying to see what I need to fix my standings.
Mhm.
So I've been spending some time trying to figure that out, and also at the same time, the skills, right? Like I just realized when I decided to do this, I was like, damn, I had no social skills. I had to like start training them. Because like the social skills do affect if I run like say the epic arc or anything like that. And so I think yeah, so I better fix this before I start doing that. So I did some research and I started like doing it. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can actually get my standings up. So that it's enough. Because like nobody really knows what standings you would need to join them, right? You don't know if they're gonna do a waiver like from now you can join, or like it's gotta be like current faction warfare where it's 0-0. Because I kind of feel like it's too limiting if they're gonna require 0-0. Because a lot of people were encouraged to rat back then. So how are you gonna fix that -10 Gorisas or Angel standings from ratting them for the past 10 years, 20 years?
They might also like make like a special Cosmos mission because you have this kind of with the Caldari, I believe, where or there might be a system that kind of hinted to they're looking into ways of making it so that you can repair your standings for this. That's not just doing the epic arc.
The
So
Cosmos missions would definitely be nice, but it's a one-off. I guess like once you join the pirate faction, you should be able to fix it.
yeah, and they're
Like
also saying that it's not going to be like a negative. It's not going to be a 0 or 0.001 requirement for it. That they might make it a -5 or a -8. It's they're going to make it so that you will be able to get into it fairly easily, from my understanding, even with negative standings. So if you have like deep negative standings, if you can repair that a little bit, they haven't solidified exactly what the requirement will be, but it's not going to be what it is currently for the Galente. Like if you want to join Galente and you're not joining a corporation, the other thing you can do too, though, is join a corporation that's not that is fully part of the pirate organization and is signed up as a corporation. Same thing you can do in Galente. Um, so you don't necessarily need good standings with them in order to get part of faction or part of pirate faction warfare. So there are
but
avenues, and it
the
will be a lot easier from my understanding.
but the even the corp, right? Like right now, like we had some Galmil guys join our corp. So we're tanking their standings with our standings. But the problem is like I don't think there's a whole lot of people who have like Angels or Grista standings.
It's a lot harder to farm. A lot
Yeah.
harder to farm. That's for sure. And a lot less people have been farming. Like we've got what a couple months notification that we had to get ready to do this. So um, there are ways to, I don't know easily, but there are ways to boost up by doing the pirate faction warfare or the pirate epic arcs and stuff like that. That you can, if you haven't ever fucked with angels, get your angel standings up to a certain degree. But it will be a harder task for, I think people might be more scrutinizing, but it also will be not as hard because if they do, let's say they have a -8 requirement, so you have to be below -8. If the corporation only needs to be below -8 or higher than -8 in standings, um, then that's a really easy requirement for a corporation to pull off, especially once there are activities and hopefully big standing boosts that you'll get with the angels as you do the activities that are going to be required of you, to influence the war zone and to pirate the war zone in this special new mechanic. Um, that's not a really hard requirement to hit, as a corporation, especially after you get a few people that are in there that have some high standings. Dropping them down, even if you have a couple guys, or a bunch of guys that come in at -10, if you've got anybody that's at, positive standings, that'll balance itself out above -8 pretty quickly.
Yeah. One thing I have to say though is maybe the Cosmos mission or something similar would be great because I mean the cartel, Angel Cartel and Goristas are pirates, right? And with it comes to generally pirates, money talks, and if maybe there's a way for you to just buy it outright.
Right.
The way we repair sex status.
Right. Yeah, and I mean there was a there I think there for all the empires there is a Cosmos Lick mission that's a one-off, I believe, that is pretty much doing that, where you bring like an item or something that's expensive and you have to like give it over to the Cosmos dude, and you'll get like quick faction standing bumps. I did it one time to fix some of my Keldari stuff. Um, but now I'm once again kicked out of the Keldari Empire, even if I'm not a pirate. Fucking assholes. All of Empire sucks. I don't know why the fuck you guys go there. It's, it's
I
stupid.
mean,
Don't go to Empire Space. It's stupid. Fuck that place.
Kassad's been having a good time camping the Kaldari in Jita, so like that's funny.
Dude,
The salt flows.
there's some good shit. I remember that reminds me of, so one time I was living in a low sec system before. This might have been just during or just before faction warfare opened up, and we killed a guy named Killer Trout in a Myrmidon, and he was like, "How did you scan me down while I was in a mission? That's crazy." And so we taught him about what was going on, and he's the one who came up with the cockbag thrasher way back in the day, and he would use that to go hunting in high sec, and would just run around high sec killing tons of frigates with the cockbag thrasher and just pissing people off. And you'd find miners like in adventures and shit just AFK mining in faction warfare, and you'd be like, why are you AFK mining in high sec with a faction warfare character? Bringing my cockbag in, blow you up. Or find people that were flying, hardly tanked, faction frigates and stuff like that, and just blow them apart as they're flying around high sec.
In the a lot of people think like low sec is dangerous. They they clearly should try it. It's a lot safer than high sec in many ways. The
I
rules are straightforward.
mhm. No, yeah,
But
you don't get ganked in low sec. You get attacked in low sec. Like that's
yeah,
it's
I
not
mean
out
like
of the
there's so many
blue.
rules. High sec has so many rules. It's just like so much simpler. I
Yeah.
remember like one time we helped station defense in high sec. I was back in Ader. It was such a shit show that the moment we got back into Fliet, one of the guys said like, "I'm never going back to high sec. Hate that place." So yeah, so it's basically I think like try low sec, and a lot of people. I just wanted to add this from the earlier conversation, right? Because a lot of people think that there's no money in low sec. That's clearly not true.
Oh no, there's
If
tons
there
of
was no
money.
money, If there's no money in low sec, we wouldn't see like guys like Goonsfrat and all these horde guys farming LP. That's one. You get low sec gas, very valuable. Isogen is plentiful in low sec. Dark Ochre is plentiful in low sec. You can run DED sites in low sec. Probably safer than in high sec because just be smart, right?
Yeah, D-scan,
Um
man, and you're good.
um Low sec wormholes lead to a lot of null sec. So if you want to use it to go do their sites and all that, it's easy. I think this is like um the reputation of low sec is there's no money there and there's high risk. That's not true. There's a lot of risk, but there's a lot of reward, right? Like similar to wormhole space where yes, there's no asset safety, yes, there's no local, but like if you can get beyond that, I think some of the biggest is now is ratting C5 sites
Yeah,
and
no, yeah,
hunting sites,
there's
right?
so much money in wormholes right now.
So like the risk and reward is there. It's the same in low sec. It's just that it's actually safer in low sec because they're NPC stations.
Yeah,
Cannot
no,
get evicted.
yeah, like that's one of the things that I love about living in Yvangir is like it's one jump from high sec for any of my hauling that I need to do, and that's like the only reason why I go to high sec these days is to haul items from Dodixie or Jidda into Yvangir, and so I'm able to sit one jump from I just have one gate that I need to take to get to high sec, or one jump in from high sec to get into Yvangir. I can't be kicked out no matter what happens. Like there's no way of actually preventing me from docking at these NPC stations. I can put all of my shit into those NPC stations and feel confident that I'm only 98% sure, because sometimes CCP does crazy stuff, and sometimes they might be like, "Oh, now NPC stations are blow upable in low sec." Like, maybe it'll drop all the loot. Um, maybe somebody goes nuts at some point, but I'm 98%, 99.9% sure or so that my shit is not going to get asset safetied or locked away or made it so I can't access that stuff. um, and you kind of learn who the locals are in low sec, so you find out who is the not threat, who the threat is. It's more active, and I don't know, like I get terrified every time I go to high sec, because there's a bunch of neutrals around, and I don't know who the fuck these people are, if they're gonna try and gank my ass. And 0.0, I always felt the most safe, where I was like, oh, if there's a red, that's when I know that there's, a neutral or a red. I know that I just, there's bad people out and about, because only bad people come this way with their neutral or alt, or their
Um,
neutral or red.
I kind of like in low sec, right? Like 'cause I used to live in 0 0, so you see a neutral, it's like get the fuck out of here. But in 0 0, I mean that's in 0 0, but in low sec you get like so even the pirates, right? Like even the guys trying to kill you. Hey guys, how are you doing today? How's the family?
Right.
Like,
Oh man, it was
I mean,
great meeting Corvus at FanFest. I was like, I love you, man. You put up good
so
fights.
there are like I think the like I when I was new, I remember like asking a guy like, dude, I don't know, did I do this right? Did I not do this right? And he said, oh, you did this, and this is why it didn't work. And like you don't get that in 0 0, right? Like it's like if you get out of here, pod them. But like in lowsec, I've literally seen discussions. Oh, this is where you. I think if you did this better, it might have worked out. It's like things like that.
Mhm.
And like, despite people killing each other, going for expensive pods, expensive ships, not everybody in lowsec. I wouldn't say everybody's nice, but like, you're not gonna get the FU treatment. I wave to people who shoot me a lot
Yeah.
because I've been seeing them for years, right? And we know they're gonna shoot each other, right? But like, there's no need to be mean about it.
There is no
It's a game
love.
after.
There is no love for PvP like there is from Lowsec. Lowsec loves our fucking PvP. 0.0 high sec is where a lot of the people in those areas they just don't appreciate PvP like we do.
I think that's maybe one of the reasons why people are kind of friendly-ish,
Mhm.
because like there's a if in low sec you don't PvP, I think you don't get any respect, right?
Right.
Without the uh, if you fight in low sec, even if you keep losing, there's more respect than someone whose skill board is all green because there's nothing in it, right? Because it's still gonna be green if you have zero losses.
Right. Yeah.
So like I think that does make um, a difference in low sec. It's like I remember back in Vietnam when we were super outnumbered. It was actually the pirates that came and joined us to shore up our numbers so that everybody gets a fight. Because if we were outnumbered 10-1, there's no fight, right? Pirates would actually help us. Like, guys, you look like you need a few more dudes. So they would help us, maybe two, three guys, and that would get us enough of a fleet to just fight back. So like, I can't imagine any other space where you would have that kind of system. Like, well, we just all want to get a fight, so how about we do this?
Yeah, it's a unique area of space for sure, and I love it. I'll always be back in, no matter what, no matter what pulls me my ADHD or ADHD, ADD, whatever whatever pulls my ass away from faction warfare doesn't usually last long enough for me to not want to just be like, I miss faction warfare where I could just undock and murder people. Like, it sucks to undock, go 30 jumps, and then maybe not murder somebody when I can just undock and murder somebody, like, or get
That's
murdered.
um that's actually happened to me, right? So I was in another part of space, and just that morning I was on my Facwar tune, and we nearly kill an AT ship. He barely gets away.
Man.
I was like, everyone was giving me like, why didn't you have a NAS?
Why could you
Eh,
kill it in that epic? Yeah, no,
um,
that's the fun of Eve. I
yeah, but
also
in the afternoon, I just wanted to put this out, the comparison, right? That's how I started my day. I ended up the day in another part of space, and all we could kill was a Venture AFK just before downtime. That kind of makes your decision, right? Like, this is where the action is.
yeah,
Because
this is
like,
where the fun small gang kind of action is, where it's on your doorstep, fuck with people, and you're gonna get fucked with. It's great. Um, I wanted to, before we wrap things up, I wanted to make sure that I give a little bit of a spotlight for you to, if there's any projects you want to talk about, any, content creators, or if you do any content creation that you want to talk about, or if there's any shout outs or anything that you wanted to shout out about, just gives you a little bit of time to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
well, just like to give them shout outs, like first to my guys in Chicken Fried Steak, Sully, Brave, and all the rest of the Food Network. And then also like to the Galente Militia in general, and to our friends in Deep in the Tanlan Pipe, and to the rest of my friends who know me in my other accounts. Um, yeah, so like I'd like to thank you for the interview as well, and like for those guys who are on the fence or worried about low sec and faction warfare, it's a great place to try. You should try it. Like again, uh, and there are people in low sec. I think people in low sec do not want you out, right? We want more people to both kill and kill with. Um, I think the mentality in low sec actually is pretty great. Um, Compared to some of the other areas in space I've been. So just give it a try. Give it like a couple of weeks. I mean, it's and find a crew you can fly with. I think like the biggest thing that has kept me in the game is actually the people in the friends I've made, like Sully, Villa, like the guys in the Alliance and the guys in Galmil in general, South Galente in general. I've flown with these guys for many years. I've left corps, but I still consider many of them my friends. So like it's just like the friendships you build, the community you make, right? I know a lot of guys like in other areas they have their own friends, and I think that's what really really makes the difference in Eve. So find some friends, like find some friends to shoot with, or if you want some frenemies, I'm sure there are a lot of them there too.
Absolutely awesome. Yeah, it's been great having you on. Great storytelling. Great going in the Wayback Machine with you. So we'll have to get you back on after Pirate Faction Warfare gets booted up here. Real quick though, just because I don't think we touched base on this. Are you interested at all in the first-person shooter that's coming out?
Um, Not really. Just me personally, because I suck at first-person shooters. That's one. And um, I mean, I make this comment all the time, right? Like, there's no other game. It's just EVE Online, and I just don't get the first-person shooter thing.
Understandable, understandable. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. Thank you all for watching, for listening. Um, we are, rebranding everything here. So our Twitch, our Twitter, our YouTube, everything is now the Federation Frontline Report. Our corporation in Eve is the Federation Frontline Report. All same spelling, Federation Frontline Report. Um, and you can check us out if you want to get involved in faction warfare, if you want to do pirating, if you are interested in living in low sec, you're interested in being part of one of the best mercenary outfits in all of EVE Online, the network. We are partnered with Noir and Hungry, and we have one of the best setups in all of EVE for hanging out in Galente faction warfare space, murdering people, being part of the militia, but then also being contracted out sometimes to go blow up Aster houses or save Aster houses that are in wormholes, or we have a contract to go gate camp in 0.0 or something. You get paid to do these different kind of contracts. But if you're also interested in, doing 0.0 and stuff like that, we sometimes go out that way and murder. I also run Spectre fleets every Sunday. Normally at around 1800 Eve time, I'm going to be taking out Spectre fleets of Thrashers. We're going to be hanging out. We're using Zarzak in order to get into 0.0 and fuck around in faction warfare space. So we go over to Turner, we fuck around in Turner, we go off into the 0.0 connections that Zarzak gives you. So if you want to come out, have fun on Sundays, and Wednesdays we also go out and do a lot of corp activities and have fun. There's the crazy event that's going on right now, which I think is really awesome. Another way of making really great ISK in EVE Online right now is to do the Crimson Harvest sites in LowSec. It's a higher tier level of you need to be able to tank some pretty decent DPS with like a battle cruiser or a tier 3 cruiser is kind of really nice to use at these sites. LowSec is a little bit more rough. It's a little bit more dangerous. Keep an eye on your D-scan, but you can make some pretty decent money, and the skins they're giving away are pretty epic. Although some of the skins might not be up somebody newer bros alleys, because it's dreadnoughts and stuff that they're giving out some cool ass skins for this event. But some of the more reasonable ones, there are some. I think there's some frigates inside of their destroyers and stuff like that have some pretty decent skins. And then one day you might fly a Moros or another dreadnought and be like, I want it to look epic, and that's what I'm like. Normally skins are not a big thing on my list, but free skins that look really fucking cool, like the event is handing out. These are some of the best skins I think in the game. But in any case, yeah, check us out. There's also Declarations of War podcast. I highly suggest everybody check that out. They're one of the oldest podcasts for EVE Online, one of the oldest organizations, run by one of the oldest mercenary organizations, Noir, in EVE Online. They've got a lot of really cool people they bring on and talk to, and have a wide variety of EVE topics that they talk about. So thank you once again for listening to me rant on here, and have a great night.
Have a great night, guys.